Yeah, that's what we're dealing with today. I got a major hydraulic leak coming out of one of the hard lines. Let me get a flashlight. Coming out of, I believe, one of these two lines right here. Unfortunately, they go up in front of the engine and you can't get to them. Well, I mean, you probably could by tearing apart under the cab to get to it, but I think, believe it or not, the easier way to pull it out, and others have said so, is to pull the motor itself. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to pull this motor out. It's a Kubota V1702, and before I pull it out, I think I'm going to do a compression check and see what we have for compression on this motor, because I really don't think that I went through another set of glow plugs. It's very hard starting. Only starts, you know, it takes like, I don't know, a minute on the switch for the glow plug, and then when you turn it over, you know, one cylinder will fire, and then like another one will, and then a third one will, and it just takes forever to get started. And I think we might have some bad compression. So while the motor's out, if it's got bad compression, I'm going to do either, well, probably a valve job, send it out to do a valve job, and possibly re-ring it and freshen up the motor. But before all that can happen, I got to do a compression check and then take this out. I also got a new starter for it, because this starter here, like every third time it'll engage, but most of the time it just grinds. So I think the Bendix is worn out, either that or the spring is, and it's not sending the gear into the flywheel or whatever. So I got a new starter, and we're going to do that. And I also got new glow plugs. And get that light again. A long time ago, in one of my old videos, I was saying how the key switch on this thing doesn't work. So I have just this a black and red wire here going up, you know, that's on my starter solenoid. That goes up to a toggle switch on the dashboard, and then another black and red wire on this solenoid, and this solenoid is for my glow plugs, and that's another switch on the dashboard. So I just hit one toggle switch to warm up the glow plugs, and then hit the other toggle switch to start it. So, you know, none of the gauges are working, and, you know, I think I want to get a new wiring harness for this and put it in the right way and clean it up in here and stuff. So I know I'm rambling, but I'm just regretting what I have to do next. So start tearing into this thing and show you what's going on. Alright, here's what I've done so far. Took out the battery. I know it's a sloppy mess in there, but that's what happens. Took off the lower radiator hose, the upper radiator hose, and took it right off at the radiator also. Took off the clamp that holds on the exhaust, and broke off all the nuts that held on there. So I'm gonna have to grind those flat and drill them out and retap the holes and use either studs and nuts or bolts, whatever. But I don't think that'll be too big of a deal. Blow that bridge up when we get to it. I had to undo some wiring here, the wire harness that goes to the alternator, one that goes to the water temp, and one that goes to the, I'm not sure what sending unit that is. Probably has to do with water also. Took off the air hose. I was working on taking this off, but that screws, I can't get to it from behind this exhaust, so once I get this out, I'll try to work on that screw. If not, I think it can stay in there. Took off the wires to the starter. I just kind of wire tied the ones that go on that top post together, and then that wire by itself goes to there. The other wire that comes off this is the solenoid that operates the glow plugs. There's just one single wire, this yellow one, that goes back, and it was hooked on to the last glow plug. I pulled that off, and it's just resting against the block there. It's out of the way. Next thing to do is take off the throttle linkage. It's located right here. And pull that off, and then I think, oh yeah, the fuel line goes from, where does it go? It goes way up here, down along the back side of the motor, comes around, and then comes up to the fuel pump. So I can pull it off here at the fuel pump and pull the motor out and let the line lay, or I can pull it off back here and then, you know, pull it off with the motor. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but that's where I'm at. So right now I gotta really try to figure out how to get this off. It's wedged in there pretty good. I'm gonna try to bend these tabs back a little bit more, I should say, and try to get something on here to knock this exhaust out. Once that exhaust is out, we'll get back to it. Ugh, that was a nightmare. Just took a flathead screwdriver and, you know, pounded up and behind these tabs a little bit so I wouldn't, you know, make the exhaust out around. Just pulled these tabs out a little bit, and after, I'm all out of breath from doing that. After yanking on it for a while, it finally slid out. So now the exhaust is out of the way, and then you can see the flange here, and with heat and penetrating oil, they just snapped off super easy. So I'm gonna have to drill those out and put new studs in. But other than that, it's going pretty good. Just got to pull out this linkage here for the throttle, and then I think the 4 motor mount bolts, and this thing should be ready to pop out. Oh yeah, and the fuel line. So I'll get back to it. All right. Well, I had to. I pulled the fuel line off of the filter. You'll see the end right there, and then it goes down, and it's got holders on the block there and behind the starter. And so I just left it on the fuel pump, and it's off here. So that's that. Fuel line's off. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, there was a fuel shutoff. That one right there, and then that was the throttle linkage. So fuel shutoffs here, and the throttle was on the end of this bar here. It goes with that. So now I think I just have to take off one. There's another one under there. 3 and 4 mounts, and this motor should slide away from the spline on the hydraulic pump. But judging by how everything else has been going, I doubt it's going to come off that easy. But we're this far, so we're going to get at it, and I'll get back to you in a minute. Alright, well that turned out to be a lot easier than I thought. I figured it was going to be stuck on the spline, but I grabbed a hold of it with my hands and slid the motor back a good, I don't know, 2-3 inches. And now I got it up over the edge. I got to pull it out a little bit further so I can finagle the hoist in there, so I can get a good shot at it. Also, this tab, this lift point is up, and the one on the back is for some reason in the down position. I gotta loosen that nut and flip it up so I can get a chain on it. So I'm gonna do that, and we'll get this motor out of here. All right, well, the motor's out. Slid right out of the hole. The spline shaft seems like it's got some mud on it right now, but it's pretty greasy, so that worked out well. The only thing I foresee being a major issue is now on the motor. I gotta get my engine stand over here, but you have the coupling, and first I'm gonna, universal joint seems really good, nice and tight, no movement at all. Let's see how this is flopping around. So getting that back on that spline shaft, I think is probably gonna be a nightmare. Not quite sure how I'm gonna tackle that, but I'll blow that bridge up when I get to it. Looking at the flywheel, doesn't look too bad. I can't see the gear in the starter, but I'm sure that's probably pretty bad. So, well, let's see. Yeah, the very inside edge of this flywheel is worn a little bit, but I'm sure it probably coincides with the wear on the starter, and that's why I'm not getting a strong connection most of the time. So get the new starter on there and clean it up. But first things first, I'm gonna go get that engine stand and put this on there. So I'll get back to you. Okay, here's what I got so far. Once I got most of this mud scraped out of here and grease and oil and stuff, I was able to get to these hydraulic lines here, and this was just completely just covered in mud. So I was able to pick at it a little bit and get it out. But the two lines that I'm worried about are these ones here. Okay, and they run along the bottom. They're down in here. So there was this little, like a push fastener of some sort that came through from the bottom, and it flared out, and then there was a pin through the middle of it. So I took my punch and I just tapped on the metal part, and it popped down through the deal, and then the 4 plastic parts were able to push. So then I was able to grab this shroud, and I don't want to take it off from up in here because I got to take the cooler off and all that stuff, but since it is a plastic shroud, I was able to pull it quite a ways out and expose the bottom these two hydraulic lines. And it's all real wet down here, and these are really, really rusty from all this mud and grease and oil and everything packed around them. So they got one of these two is bad. I'm going to go ahead and replace them both. This one here kind of goes forward, and I think it goes into the block there somewhere. And this one over here comes up and goes right here. So I can unscrew this one. This whole line will come out because it comes in over here and it goes into one of these lines here. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but I'm going to replace these two. Oh yeah, it would be these two bottom ones. These two lines here, they run up, and I don't know if they either do the bucket or they do the boom. Not quite sure which, but I'm going to replace them, both of them. So I need to go up. This one here goes up, and I think it goes into the block, into the valve body up here. One of these ones on the side here. Once I turn the camera off and get a flashlight down in there, I'll be able to figure out which it is. I'm going to pull those two lines off and then clean this up real good. Make sure none of these other ones are crappy. And then, you know, put those in, and then we're going to get working on that motor, try to figure out what's going on with that thing. I didn't do a compression test while it was in here, but now that it's out, if I just hook a battery to it and jump the solenoid, I can get it to spin over, and we'll do a compression check on it. Of course, the motor stand that I was going to use isn't around, so I just have it up on a couple of jack stands right now so I can get the lift out of the way and the hoist. And now that that's like that, I'll be able to get the motor stand and put it up. So anyways, that's where we are to this point. Get this cleaned out and get these two lines off and go from there. So I'll be back.